Space Marine 3 is in the works, and both Focus Entertainment and Saber Interactive want you to be part of its development. On August 19th, the year of our Emperor 2025, they tweeted out a survey that requests your feedback for Space Marine 2 and even asks what you want to see in Space Marine 3. Whether you enjoy Space Marine 2 or hate it, I think that it's important to take this opportunity to deliver direct feedback to the developers so that Space Marine 3 is as good as it can possibly be. Check the links in the description that will take you to the survey so that you can complete it and get your voice out there. I filled the survey out, and I want to share my answers with you guys because they reflect the feedback that I've seen in the community while mixing in elements that I'd personally like to see in future Space Marine games. The first question asks if you can tell us the reasons why you did or did not complete the story campaign, and I answered that I completed the story campaign and thought it was good, though it could have incorporated a couple more elements that would have made it a little better. The storytelling elements were all there, but gameplay was rarely dynamic. I would have liked to have piloted vehicles, gotten to use Terminator armor, and overall participated in other dynamic gameplay events not typically found in operations. The main criticism that I see about Space Marine 2's campaign is that it's too short, spending about 6 to 10 hours of gameplay. I disagree with this criticism. I don't think that you need a long campaign in order for it to be good, but I would like the campaign to be more dynamic. I see the campaign as an opportunity for the developers to expand gameplay beyond what it can be within the operations game mode. And that leads us into the next question: can you tell us the reasons why you did or did not play PvE modes? And I answered, I really enjoy the PvE modes in this game, especially operations. They're what I engage with the most. What I really enjoy about PvE in this game is the replayability with the various weapons and builds available to the player. I would like for more challenging game modes and achievements to be available to complete with cosmetic rewards associated with them. This would build camaraderie and promote the social aspects of the game in multiplayer lobbies and social media on top of having more engaging gameplay in the game. I have a feeling that many people in the community are going to refer to the grind as a reason for not engaging with the PvE in this game. And this is fair because even though I think that the prestige system is cool, doesn't mean that other people are going to enjoy grinding what is effectively 125 levels worth of experience points. I actually think that the primary reason why people engage with the PvE in this game is because they want to do something after they're done with the campaign, and they engage with the PvP in this game, but after finding out that it's trash, they jump over to the PvE. Speaking of PvP, the next question is, can you tell us the reasons why you did or did not play PvP mode? And I answered, Space Marine 2's PvP is too straightforward for its own good. Eternal War currently feels like a side project compared to the campaign, operations, and siege mode. The game mode doesn't feel very ambitious or dynamic, and I'd like to see major overhauls in the future. For example, I would prefer larger scaled PvP featuring dozens of players battling on a larger map with vehicles, NPC allies like guardsmen and traitor guardsmen, and epic maps that feel exciting to play on. It's extremely difficult to create successful arena-based shooters in a class-based game like Space Marine 2 and retain player interest. Space Marine 2 should move away from its current iteration of PvP in favor of more ambitious, epic game modes. When it comes to Eternal War, I don't think that the new Hellbrute PvP mode is going to be able to save it. It's going to be pretty cool to experience a new game mode and a new map, but I don't think that it's going to retain the interest of players for too long. If Saber cares about boosting engagement in PvP, then what they need to do is something drastic, like make it so that you can use Chaos Space Marine cosmetics in PvE as well. Maybe cosmetics that you earn in PvP so that players have to play the game mode. I understand that this would be immersion breaking for some players, but I would argue that my immersion is already broken because the game is so ultramarine pilled. None of the other cosmetics from any of the other chapters should appear in this game at all. If the community has already suspended its disbelief for these other cosmetics, I think you could take it a step further and suspend its disbelief for Chaos cosmetics as well. Moving on to the next question, it asks, what do you like most about Space Marine 2? You can be specific. Tell us about a time you had a lot of fun playing the game. And I answered, Space Marine 2 is an amazing Warhammer 40k game with a great combat system. I think that the mix of shooting, melee combat, dodging, and parrying is perfect because it makes for some highly addictive and smooth gameplay. One of the most fun moments I've had playing the game was when I saw the triple Hellbrute spawn in Siege mode for the first time. If that kind of dynamic gameplay was implemented into operations, that would be amazing. The next question feeds into this one. What do you like less about Space Marine 2? Are there elements you would like to see improved? And I answered, I think the game's biggest flaw is the amount of content. 10 operations would have been a magnificent amount of content to launch the game with, and the campaign could have had much more dynamic gameplay. PvP is also in a bad spot, and I don't believe the Hellbrute mode will fix its poor state. It needs to be rebuilt from the ground up into a more epic experience. Additionally, if the game featured a third faction and more operations that featured multiple factions fighting one another, that would be amazing. More dynamic gameplay at all skill levels is crucial for replayability. And I think that this feedback kind of speaks for itself. The community wants to see more factions, it wants to fight more enemies, and it wants to have more tools that it can use to fight those enemies. There are other things in the game that could use some tweaking, such as the state of weapon or class balance, or even mechanics such as enrage found in the higher end difficulties, but I would argue that content is what the game needs the most. And this leads into a question that is probably important for a lot of people because cosmetics are very important for a lot of people, but they're not too important for me, which is, can you tell us why you chose to purchase or to not purchase DLCs? And I answered, I don't really use the cosmetics provided by the DLCs because I prefer to equip rewards that I earn by overcoming challenges and completing achievements. I purchased the Ultra Edition to support the developers and publisher. It's going to be pretty interesting to see how people answer this question because I know that a lot of people actually want more microtransactions in Space Marine 2. There are those out there who believe that if more people could spend more money on the game, that we'll get more content out of the game. And there's a lot of evidence out there that supports that theory. Gacha games, Destiny 2, League of Legends, and many other live service games that have a lot of microtransactions tend to have really fast and really jam-packed content releases. Personally, if we can get away with it, I would prefer not to have microtransactions in Space Marine 3, which actually brings us to our first Space Marine 3 related question, which is, what is your favorite Space Marine chapter? And I answered the Blood Ravens, of course. It's really important that you answer with your favorite chapter here because this is probably what's going to dictate what chapters appear in Space Marine 3. I really enjoy the Blood Ravens because they only appear in 40k video games. They don't appear in any other kind of 40k media, and I think that it would be awesome to include the Blood Ravens because they've already been included in a Space Marine game. They were actually in the original Space Marine game, and bringing them back for Space Marine 3 would be awesome. And this leads us into the next question, which is, thinking about Space Marine 2, what would make you want to play or not play a future Space Marine game even more? I answered, I want Space Marine 3 to build on what we have in Space Marine 2. If there are activities in Space Marine 2 that players aren't engaging with in the long term, I wouldn't mind if they were removed in favor of activities and game modes that players would actually play. Additionally, if all of the cosmetics that I purchased in Space Marine 2 transfer to Space Marine 3, that would be a huge win, especially if the plot of Space Marine 3 features several Space Marine chapters. I think everybody agrees that the gameplay in Space Marine 2 is solid, and similar to how Dark Souls has evolved into Elden Ring, we just want to see an evolution of Space Marine 2's gameplay. In fact, the next question asks, based on your experience within Space Marine 2, are there any specific new features or improvements you would prioritize for Space Marine 3? I answered that I would like to see a campaign that features multiple Space Marine chapters facing off against at least 3 enemy factions, ideally Orcs, Tyranids, and the Black Legion. This would allow Space Marine 3's operations to be more dynamic, epic, and nostalgic as possible. For PvP, I'd like the game to move away from an arena shooter and embrace epic, large-scale battles with dynamic and engaging combat. Vehicles, NPC allies such as guardsmen or traitor guardsmen, and epic maps should be a priority. And I think that this falls in line with what people want to see out of a sequel for Space Marine 2. People just want an epic and memorable experience that is extremely fun in the moment. With the exception of PvP, which I believe needs a complete overhaul, Space Marine Marine 3 should have very similar gameplay when compared to Space Marine 2. We just want a bigger story, more classes, more weapons, and more maps, because all we really care about as a community at the end of the day is purging Xenos and Heretics as a Space Marine in a good game. As long as Space Marine 3 continues to deliver that, it's gonna be a great game. As always, I appreciate your viewership. This has been Jeffficus, and I'll see you in game.